day?
Well, let me just start by saying I'm glad we're in this part of the world.
Okay.
Because people are still not too far away from being whooped. So at least to a certain degree, there's a level of grounding that can be instilled, and there's a level of rejection that still can be given and the reaction controlled. There's other parts of the world where you see someone being rejected and they cause a tantrum and they make so much noise until they get it, because that's how they've always known how to get things. And it's something that they've learned ever since they were children. And that sort of lack of grounding is what now affects a lot more people today. There's a lot more people that are getting a lot more allowance. They're being given this freedom, almost as if they are close to being an adult and they know the difference between right and wrong, or they're an adult so they know the difference between right and wrong. And yet there's still a bit of tweaking that needs to be done. Because, for example, like something as simple as rejection is very, very tricky for some people to take, because if you go, you meet with a girl, you go, you interact, things start to get all hot and steamy, you guys go behind closed doors, and then she gets second thoughts on the entire thing and she says no. How many people can say that they will be able to hold themselves back and be like, all right, fine, and then they just open the door and they're like, all right, fine, we can just leave and leave it as is. Some people may not be able to accept that because they've gotten so far. Why aren't they getting the cookie? And that's something that I guess some people are unable to deal with, regardless of gender, because there's also women that have issues dealing with that. And that's how now people start crossing into the lack of consent line, which can be very, very tough to now start to pull back from, not just with the other person, but also on a social level, the moment now it comes out. Because the moment someone gets a situation like that and they go and they report it to their friends, all of a sudden your face is being plastered all over social media, and you're being looked at as an abuser. You're being looked at as the filth of this planet. And there's no way to get yourself back from that, which is kind of why some people have said that nowadays it's better to be a murderer than to be accused of being a sexual predator or a sexual assault person, if I can call it that. Because at least a murderer can be forgotten. But sexual assault nowadays, it never goes away.
Well, you move around and it's all written on your face. Perhaps this is where we would have begun, by asking just exactly what is sexual wellness in this case. That's would actually land us to relationships that are good. And therefore we say that, you know, within our relationship or relationships, there's some element of wellness.
Well, it should not be confused that I'm a sex expert of any nature.
We don't know that for sure.
Absolutely. And so the wellness, from the way I look at it, and I'm not in that space quite clearly, I deal in wellness from different perspectives, fitness enthusiast and all these things. And of course it's wellness because I've had to really bury my head into loads and loads of books, especially in this field of psychology, and which I find really interesting because it deals with behavior, and human behavior is what informs all these things. But having said that, I mean, from where I said I feel like the whole idea that sex is from time immemorial has lost its glory to a huge extent, that a lot of things have now been sexualized. When we had the coming in of modernity and civilization with the excesses that it's brought in, and of course with the other add-ons, the cousins, which is a social media space that's opened everybody to everything else, and of course a human race that's not grounded, as we've constantly said here, perhaps the well-worn word in this kind of discussion tonight. Without that grounding, as they say, you know, if you don't stand for anything, you actually fall for everything. So I don't really think we'd apportion that blame purely on the altar of the young generation where Denver sits, and clearly some of us as well. It's something that's been handed over from, you know, generation to generation. We've dropped the ball. Slowly by slowly, it slipped through our fingers, and then now everybody is just exposed to just about everything in the world of social media, modernity, civilization, as they call it. To a point where now we've lost that past really great mesh that the moral fabric was.